Salutations, lovely audience, and welcome. Do those... Yeah, those words mean the same thing. Oh well, it sounded good. This time on CinemAttack, we've got some recommendations, some Star Wars Episode VII news, and my review of The Wolverine. That's not the reason to get excited, though. Oh no. The reason to get excited is that Max has an exclusive early review of Edgar Wright's The World's End. Of course, we're getting this review nearly 3 weeks before it releases here in the States. I really am looking forward to this episode because, it was tiring, to disagree with Max a bunch last time. This time, we're not even doing the same movie, so it's just going to be a nice, anger-free, pleasant episode.
Yeah, if you pronounce everything correctly, we'll be good.
Hey, The Wolverine takes place in Japan. I make no guarantees.
We're just 5 friends on a night out, having a good time.
The World's End.
The Golden Mile, a 12-stop pub crawl across the humble town of Newton Haven. 23 years ago, 5 teenagers attempted to complete it. Alas, they failed miserably. Now, the group's self-appointed leader, Gary King, has brought them all back together to finish what they started decades ago. But there's something odd about Newton Haven. Although it may not look any different, the townspeople have undergone a strange procedure. And by procedure, I mean they all got replaced by hostile robots. Now, the group must make it all the way to the final stop of the Golden Mile, the World's End, before they can escape the town. The World's End is the cinematic manifestation of a midlife crisis. Themes of nostalgia and its potential chokehold on the adult psyche are prominent throughout the narrative, resulting in a climax that's brilliant in a number of ways. It's a movie about growing up and the people who refuse to do so. I mean, when you really deconstruct the plot of The World's End, it's honestly kinda sad. It's a good thing then that the movie is so damn funny. The script was penned by the incredible Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg, the director and one of the stars, respectively. The kind of sharp-tongued wit that we've come to love about the duo in their previous efforts is on full blast here. And speaking of Mr. Pegg, it seems like he's having a lot of fun playing the irresponsible man-child of the group. And on that note, it's really interesting to see him and co-star Nick Frost switch archetypes from the previous installments in the Cornetto trilogy. Something else different from the previous films is the focus on slower-paced action. Edgar Wright's sporadic and scattered directorial style takes a back seat to free-flowing fistfights, draped against the backdrop of longer takes and less visual effects. Middle-aged businessmen opening a can of whoop-ass on some robots sounds cool enough on paper, but these scenes have some of the most triumphant, fist-pumpingly awesome moments of the year. That, combined with the hilarious writing, makes The World's End a movie best watched in a packed movie theater. But more than anything else, The World's End is just a very unique film. It's true that the midlife crisis has been a subject explored in the medium before, but never in such a vibrant display like here. The movie is also extremely committed to its ideas, to the point where it gets pretty bleak at points. But it's never jarring to the point where it took me out of the experience. It's the combination of great humor and pacing that allows the writers to go to more serious tones without souring the film overall. I mean, plus, I've never even heard of another movie that's about pub crawls, so there's that. However, that does not mean that the film is perfect. My biggest complaint resides with the lone female character, Sam Chamberlain. It's not that she's underdeveloped, it's that she's barely developed at all. Her only purpose is to serve as an object of affection for another character, and she barely has a presence on screen. She's not regressive or condemnable, but she could have been a lot better. I also wasn't a huge fan of the ending. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with it structurally, but I feel like it was just shoved in there at the last minute. It serves a purpose, sure, but I think that purpose could have been better suited to a different ending. Finally, I feel like there could have been a better way to convey certain elements. Starting the movie with a voiceover narration from the main character explaining the backstory wasn't the best way to open it. In fact, the entire beginning, from the prologue to introducing each of the characters, could have been a lot better in my opinion. Even so, The World's End is unquestionably the best comedy of the summer. It's a little rough around the edges, but it shines thanks to excellent writing, direction, performances, and theme exploration. It's an intelligent and hilarious movie with a lot of heart behind it. More than anything else though, it is a movie to watch in the theater, as a lot of moments are tailor-made for audience reactions. So, raise your glass of tap water in celebration of a movie more than worthy of your attention. The World's End scores a 4 out of 5.
Your grandfather called me a Ronin. Samurai without a master. Who has no reason to live.
Was he right?
The Wolverine is a tale of mortality and the will to live, following Logan, the Wolverine, as he is summoned to Japan by Yoshida, a man on his deathbed whom Logan saved during World War II. To repay Logan, Yoshida now offers to end his eternity, to remove his immortality. So a good place to start talking about the Wolverine is maybe with the Wolverine, Hugh Jackman. Look, even in the harshest reviews for any of the X-Men movies, no one blames Hugh Jackman for any of the downfalls. He's a great actor, and he really knows this role. He delivers a spot-on performance consistently throughout this movie, and I really appreciate how he doesn't seem to be playing a superhero character, rather a character who's a superhero. It's an odd distinction, but Hugh Jackman's one of the few actors who just nails it. The action in The Wolverine is great, if a bit inconsistent. I mean, there's a really long fight scene, then a really small break, then another one, then a really long time without one, then a slew of them back to back. It just could have used a little better pacing. However, I really did like the action. There's this brutal fluidity to it all. The choreography is beautiful to watch unfold, but at the same time, it's not that fun to watch because, man, those strikes look like they hurt. On the subject of action, one of the most promising things about the Wolverine was how they were taking away his immortality, meaning he could die in a fight. I was really hoping this would add just a ton of weight to each and every action scene. So did it? Yes? During the action, it didn't do as much as I'd hoped. I mean, sometimes the portrayal of violence and, what it did to Logan was realistic, but a lot of times it wasn't. He acted like it really wasn't a big deal. Story-wise, though, absolutely. Logan gets shot, they have to detour to get some medical treatment. Great, that worked beautifully. I knew the movie was doing something right as we reached the climax of the film. I was in my seat, leaning forward, nervous. Only after the movie ended did I realize the significance of this. I was legitimately concerned for the safety of the Wolverine. What? Good job, movie. The Wolverine's plot is interesting, for sure. Throughout the entire thing, I couldn't shake this feeling that there was something beneath the surface that we, the audience, wasn't privy to. It reminded me that while a lot of movies, kind of inform the audience and keep their characters in the dark, and while it does work in a lot of cases, sometimes it's best to tell us things as the characters learn about it. It helps us identify with their confusion. Speaking of confusion, I was pretty confused for most of the movie. To be fair, I think most of this was intentional. I mean, the Wolverine does tell a pretty complex story involving, the Yakuza and family inheritance. Some characters appear to be good, but then are bad, or are they, and, vice versa. And it kept me guessing pretty well until the very end, where this, one final piece of the puzzle fits in, and everything is made perfectly clear. Kind of. I mean, I understood enough to understand the emotional stakes and, the resolution, but it could have been a little clearer on a few minor things. The Wolverine's biggest problem is that it lacks subtlety. I'm not going to call it dumb, because it definitely deals with some heavy themes, and does so decently, but there was a lack of delicacy in dealing with, pretty much everything. There were a ton of lines where the characters would just kind of spell out what's happening for the audience. All character actions had blatantly obvious connotations and motivations, and it just, every time this kind of happened, it pulled me out of it a bit, because, well, people don't talk and act this way. I mean, I'm sure this was intentional, and I'm sure it helped convey what it was trying to say to a larger audience, but I can't help but feel it hurt the film a little bit, overall. With a bit more finesse, this could have been a great movie, but as is, it's still a solid good one. The Wolverine, like I said, is a story about mortality, and this is what intrigued me most about it, and luckily it handles its theme, pretty well. It isn't going to, change anyone's life, but it does do a good job in discussing, like the idea of immortality being a curse, the belief that death is the only thing that makes life meaningful, and a lot like how Star Trek Into Darkness's theme was perfectly tailored for Kirk, this theme is absolutely beautiful to go with the character of Wolverine. It adds a layer of philosophy to the movie really early on, and once this idea has been planted, it passively affects you as you watch the rest of the movie. In conclusion, the Wolverine did pretty much everything I'd hoped it would, and much more importantly, it did all those things well. Those of you who were interested in seeing the Wolverine, definitely go. I don't really see it disappointing you. But those of you who, didn't really grab you, wait till DVD, because it's definitely worth a watch, but it isn't spectacular enough to really win you over. The Wolverine gets a 7 out of 10.
Gather around, one and all, because it is once again time for me to adopt this incredibly enthusiastic voice to hide just how dead I am inside. This is a CinemAttack newsreel. Avengers, Age of Ultron, and Batman vs. Superman, okay? Okay, we are done with superhero movie news. We really need to talk about things less nerdy. Star Wars Episode VII is easily one of the most anticipated films of 2015, which is saying a lot, and a slew of news stories regarding it have been floating around these past few weeks. The first regards casting. Both Zac Efron and Ryan Gosling have been rumored to be considered for roles. Before you take to the comment section to rage about these picks, please keep in mind that casting rumors are just that, rumors, and pretty much meaningless considering how much changes during pre-production. In more concrete, exciting news, legendary composer John Williams is set to return to score Episode VII. With this being a completely new chapter in the Star Wars saga and a totally new company and director behind it, it will be a challenge to make it feel like the Star Wars we all know and love. Williams' familiar and unmatched scoring will certainly help us feel right at home. A troubling development on the directing front has made many audience members concerned. J.J. Abrams was recently rumored to be looking to exit the picture, which would make sense seeing as Star Trek III was recently put on the fast track to begin shooting shortly, and no director has been named. Head of Lucasfilm Kathleen Kennedy, however, assured everyone that these are merely rumors and that J.J. Abrams is still directing. Abrams or not, production of Episode VII is apparently set to begin in just 1 month's time. And finally, a nice announcement regarding their approach to Episode VII. Kathleen Kennedy recently stated that they will be using real locations and practical effects as much as possible, vowing to focus on story and character rather than effects and spectacle. Clearly, this is in response to the generally ill-received prequels, a nice first step to winning back the fans' confidence. To wrap things up, we here at CinemAttack would like to congratulate Ellen DeGeneres for being selected as a host of next year's Oscars. We are all very excited to see what she does with the event we hold so dear. This has been the CinemAttack... Wait, what's this? Breaking news! Oh my, this is horrible! Johnny Depp has announced that his retirement is not too far off.
Salutations, and welcome to everyone's favorite segment on CinemAttack. You know, I can't remember a time when I didn't want to host Recommendation Domination. Apart from the summer of 1979 when I wanted to be Kermit the Frog. Let's do this! So, The World's End doesn't come out for a few weeks here in the States. So if you're like me and inhabited in the USA, I have a homework assignment for you. See, The World's End is actually the third installment in what's called the Cornetto trilogy of films. While we usually don't recommend movies in the same series as the subject matter, this is a very special exception. Instead of a continuation of narrative, we have a continuation of themes and ideas, not to mention directors and stars. My assignment to you, dear viewer, is to watch the following two recommendations before seeing The World's End, as they're all connected in substantial ways. The first of these three movies is Shaun of the Dead. I see a lot of people call this movie a satire of zombie films, and I must disagree. Aside from its parodic title, it's just a solid zombie movie with a dash of romantic comedy elements thrown in for good measure. Tons of standout moments, from its idiosyncratic opening to the way its main character negates the brain-dead inhabitants as zombies.
Any zombies out there? Don't say that. What? That? What? That? The Z word. Don't say it. Why not? Because it's ridiculous.
And who can forget the legendary jukebox scene? It's a solid movie all around and a damn good start for the series. Now, obviously, you can't talk about a trilogy without mentioning its second installment, which means that I get to talk about Hot Fuzz! Yes, an action movie parody better than most action movies, Hot Fuzz is an absolute blast from start to finish. It's 1 part comedy, 1 part mystery, and 2 parts balls-to-the-wall blood sport. It's the best kind of action movie, one that stays so damn committed to its wackiness that it goes in places other films would dare not go. Plus, it shows that Edgar Wright is one of the best modern action directors out there. It's comedic gold, and I simply cannot recommend it enough. While it's easy to go rent these movies at your local video store, there will be triple feature showcases of the Cornetto trilogy all around the country later this month. If you have the opportunity, I sincerely suggest that you go watch all 3 of these movies back to back. It's an experience as sweet as the ice cream it's named after. Anyway, today's movies are both directed by the star. First up, from Joseph Gordon-Levitt, it's Don John. Out of all the things about this movie, what interests me the most is the premise. It's about a porn addict who meets a beautiful woman who's addicted to romantic comedies. From what the trailer tells us, the film might imply that the 2 genres have more in common than any of us realized. Plus, the star-studded cast is also a huge selling point for me. And if it's any more indication, the movie has already received a very positive reception from critics at film festivals. Even so, we'll see how Mr. Gordon-Levitt fares as a director when Don John hits theaters on September 27th. I'll be honest, it became pretty difficult to find a movie coming soon that got my attention. But then I stumbled across a trailer and behold, it is now my most anticipated movie of the holiday season, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Directed by and starring Ben Stiller, this movie chronicles the adventures of a man who finds adventure within the realms of his own imagination. The cinematography looks incredible, the visual effects look spectacular, and I absolutely love the idea. You know, it's been a long time since I've been excited for anything featuring Mr. Stiller, but through one brilliantly crafted trailer, I am absolutely enthralled. Make time in your schedule to check out The Secret Life of Walter Mitty when it releases on Christmas Day. Well, that's about all the time we have for today, my friends. Thanks for watching, and remember, the best movies you'll ever see, you may not have seen just yet.
With that, we have reached the end of our time this week, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching, but unfortunately, I do have to announce that after a dozen episodes, we're calling it quits. For a little bit. Yeah, we're taking the month of August off for various reasons, but we'll be coming back early September with Larry and a review extravaganza where we each review a movie from August. You can also think of this as kind of an unofficial end of Season 1, meaning we're going to take this downtime to work through some changes and make the show even better. So please leave your suggestions for changes in the comments below or on our Twitter. We'll be sure to consider each one. So until next time, I'm Sean.
And I'm still Side Smash.
Thank you for all your continued support, and we'll see you in September.